Your inner baseline creates the ceiling for your leadership impact and business performance. The invisible operating system that is running underneath every decision you make, every relationship you lead, either quietly supporting your next level or quietly sabotaging it. The growth is not as expected, performance is not where it should be, and there is this level of dissatisfaction, right? And most leaders never see it because they are too busy working inside the ceiling to notice the ceiling first. What is that inner baseline that is holding back realization of what you want to achieve? Welcome back to the Extraordinary Leadership Podcast. I'm Dagmara, founder of Extraordinary Leadership and transformational executive coach and partner to CEOs and executives building extraordinary organizations, businesses, legacies, and lives. Today's episode is one of that I feel genuinely called to record. What I'm going to share with you is at the heart of everything I've seen, holding leaders back and everything that actually creates sustainable success. So we are going to talk about something that most leadership conversations skip. Not a strategy, not a skill, and not even mindset. So what we're going to talk about is something deeper, something that really runs the show. Your inner baseline, the invisible operating system that is running underneath every decision you make, every team you lead, every result your business and organization creates. And I'm going to show you through 4 examples exactly how that baseline is either quietly supporting your next level or quietly sabotaging it. Here is what I see. Leaders that are driven, ambitious, smart, and something isn't working. The growth is not as expected. The performance is not where it should be. The team is underperforming. Maybe the meetings never end and nothing moves. And there is this level of dissatisfaction, right? I was there too. And it's until I came into understanding deeper of human behavior, psychology, how mind, body, and energy works, that it helped me to understand that actually there is something else that drives my behaviors, my thoughts, my decisions, my actions, the way I show up, the presence I bring into every room, and how that actually shifts also responses, dynamic in every meeting actually, and how that shapes their results at the end. And what was that? Is that inner baseline. That inner baseline, which essentially, I would say it can simplify to 3 things. Is your identity, which means it's how you see yourself. Some people call it a self-image. And a set of subconscious beliefs about yourself that you hold about yourself, not conscious, but subconscious, which of course has been established and shaped for many, many years before through many different experiences. The second is your state. Is your state from which you operate every single day. You have currently a baseline of your state. This emotional state that you come back to. It is your energetic baseline that you come back to. That state is defining, again, how you think, how you decide, and which impact you make and how you communicate. And the third is all subconscious patterns that shapes your perception, that shapes your decisions, your thinking, all of that wired in your subconscious body and mind. So those 3 essentially are consisting of your inner baseline and create what I call your frequency that you actually broadcast to the world, if you like, to your team, to every meeting, because people feel you before they actually hear you. And so all these 3 essential elements of your inner baseline are shaping literally everything. Shaping the strategy you make, the vision you create, the decisions you take, how you respond, the amount of triggers, what you're even triggered about, how you react or respond to those triggers. So if you don't know what is the inner baseline that you operate on today, you miss on a lot. You actually run on autopilot without knowing there is one. And that autopilot is basically shaping everything, including the results you create, the reality you experience, the relationships you have, the patterns you repeat, everything. And that is so important, therefore, to understand, how that inner baseline actually show up in your leadership, in your life, in your business. Because it's that inner baseline that creates the sync in your leadership impact and your business performance and in how your team operates. So let me give you these 4 key examples that it will become a little bit more tangible in the real business scenarios. And some of them might be actually what you're experiencing right now. Number 1, facing the challenge of leading transformational change. Let's look at it through a lens of one of my clients, C-level, experienced leader that stepped into a very exciting new executive role with a mandate to transform the organization and the performance to the absolute next level that he was absolutely excited about. Experienced, bold vision, real leadership capability, and the organization that needed really that change. Challenges started to unfold. He started to hit the wall because the organization resisted. So he pushed harder. The resistance grew. Then he tried to understand more the people and became more accommodating. But still, things were not moving. And the pressure was taking over. He was not switching off. And at home, he was less present. His family started to notice that as well. The doubts creeping in. And this very subtle narrative was showing up that he needs to prove that he's capable at this role, that he needs to deliver, bringing, of course, fears that his reputation, career, finances might be at stake if things do not progress. So when he came to me facing those challenges, we quickly discovered that this is not a strategy problem. That's not a leadership skills problem, but it is a baseline problem. Where we discovered that his baseline was wired for, first of all, judgment and high criticism to himself, never feeling fully enough, always chasing the next proof point. And that wiring was sending a subtle, powerful message to the organization that where you are right now is not good enough. And that was first block that was creating resistance. He also wasn't leading with curiosity and empathy. Not because he didn't care. He cared deeply, but because his baseline was wired for getting there faster, and his judgments towards himself were also transpired on judging and holding certain beliefs about others. And it was pushing people back, even if the words were all right. The energy, the subconscious communication was different. And that's why he faced the resistance. So elevating that baseline, which included understanding its mechanism, its patterns of triggers, reactions, thoughts, emotions, and discovering that underneath it all, there is a different part of himself that operates differently, which I call the highest, the truest core and essence of who you are, has transformed absolutely his leadership impact, the business performance, and reputation in a company. And who has he become? After 8 weeks, key resistors became supporters. Within 3 months, buying into his vision, into the change that he was leading. Within 6 months, he steamed on the transformation and his CEO publicly praised him. And 12 months down the line, the performance was on a different level. And later on, he was rewarded also financially, substantially. And on top of that, he feels so much more joyful, connected, grateful, present, much more than he felt before, despite having the biggest role. That is what became available when he elevated his baseline and stepped to the leading from a different operating mode and different part of himself. Now, challenge that you might be facing is different. And that's what example 2 is. The organization that won't take ownership. So let's look at it how your inner baseline may play a role here. Let's take another of my client, a new appointed CEO, 100th person to lead 7 countries, service-based industry, passionate, driven, obviously genuinely desire to make a difference and to be the best leader the organization could have. And yet discussions weren't moving. People weren't taking action. The organization felt fragmented and disengaged. And so what we discovered is that his baseline was wired for hyper-rationality. Emotions were distractions. The fastest path was logic, analysis, giving answers. And he was brilliant at it, but unconsciously leaving the emotional reality of his people completely unaddressed. People didn't feel seen, heard, or connected to the mission. No connection, no engagement, no unity, and results were far below the organization's real potential. What emerged by elevating his baseline was a genuinely transformational leader, transparent about his journey, communicating through videos to the whole company, finding analytical genius with real emotional intelligence. And his organization felt it. And so does the collaboration, the ownership, the engagement shifted to where he wanted it to be, which obviously fuels the business impact and results. Let's take example 3. The team is not performing, which you might be facing. That was a case of one of my other clients. He was VP in venture capital organization. His team was not taking ownership. The vision was clear, the people were there, his passion was there. He spent time to, explain the vision, to communicate clarity of the goals, to push harder, to also give them space. And nothing has really shifted. People still were in a waiting mode, not fully owning the vision and results. And he found himself taking over more from his team and taking more on his shoulders, among other challenges that he had to navigate, like politics in our organization. And he tried everything. And from all that trials, nothing really moved a needle. So in our journey, what he discovered is that his baseline was wired for hyperachievement and control. And so when the team didn't perform, he would push harder and take over and step in. And of course, that has completely taken away the space for the other people to respond, to take ownerships. He was in this pushing mode, broadcasting mode, but not really a mode which allowed the team to really step in. And there was also another wiring scheme baseline, which came from a bit of a pleasing. He was afraid to challenge that transparently, to have and hold those courageous conversations, also to share how really it impacts him and ask for help. That was very challenging for him because it felt vulnerable. So you see, that wiring kept him repeating the patterns, kept him in exhaustion, kept him in team not progressing, not performing better, and with being in the vicious cycle. Breaking through that wiring, elevating it to a completely different level, stepping to a fuller, more expanded, more authentic version of himself as a result of it, helped him to connect better with his team and engage them in a different way and produce different level of relationship, engagement, and connection as he was operating on a different baseline and different mode of operation. And yet there can be another challenge that you might be facing, the business hitting a ceiling. One of my clients, a founder, passionate, with big vision, strong team, genuine potential, facing problems with the revenue, problems with growth, problems with client acquisition. Growth wasn't happening as it should at a level that it was expected to come. And she was trying everything, new strategies, new partnerships, new offers, and smart moves. But something was still blocking that flow. So when we worked together and looked deeper of what is creating that blockage in a business potential, in a business growth, we quickly discovered that the inner baseline of that leader was wired for hypervigilance and for perfectionism. So always scanning on one side for what could go wrong, but always searching for also the perfect solutions before moving. And also underneath that, there were a lot of subconscious beliefs in areas such as money, clients, unworthiness. So of course, every decision was filtered through those wired in this inner baseline filters, and every opportunity obviously was met with invisible resistance. So the cost was not only obviously the revenue and the growth of the business, but it was also constant anxiety and a team that obviously felt that tension. So what shifted? By elevating that baseline, her team alignment improved, revenue and opportunities started actually to flow, started to come. And most visibly, she embodied a different presence, different self or sense of self in how she show up, how she think, how she decides, how to portray herself, how she value herself, how she respect herself, and the kind of leadership that show up differently in any partnership, sales, or team conversation. Leadership that comes from a different place, from confidence, from inner security, from feeling valued, and from completely different belief system and state that is felt. And that drives different results and unlocks different opportunities. I hope that by me sharing with you those the four different scenarios that I've been seeing unfolding in front of my eyes allow you to connect the impact of your inner baseline on your leadership and on organization, on team and a business performance. Because that connect is the first thing that will help you to start to look in the right place, to recalibrate there before you go to strategy, before you go to process, before you consider changing any person in your team. This is exactly where you would need to start if you face today any challenge that I'll be speaking about and beyond. Because literally every challenge you face will always go back to the inner baseline that you operate from, because it's that inner baseline that is shaping that challenge currently. Now, and I also want to briefly share of what are the costs if you don't look into understanding that layer of yourself and elevating identity, state, and your perceptions. Because it has a cost already now, and it will has a cost every single day for you, for others, and for what's possible. And it is not just a personal, it absolutely ripples. So the first cost is performance. Not the performance you can see and measure immediately sometimes, but the compounding gap between where your business or organization or your team could be and where it is actually currently. Every month, you operate from that unconscious inner baseline. You are leaving something on the table. Growth that doesn't happen. Opportunities that don't get sized, as you've heard in some of the stories. Decisions that get made from a fear or habit instead of clarity and vision. Revenue that doesn't come in. Growth that stalls at a ceiling that should have been broken through a year ago. Partnerships, and this is not small. This is the compounding cost of leading from your unelevated baseline. And most leaders never see it because they are too busy working inside the ceiling to notice the ceiling first. The second cost are your people. Every person in your team is being shaped by you, by a leader. You create the standard, you the role model, you set the tone. And when you operate from exhaustion or baseline that is wired for control or needing to prove or needing to chase or perfectionism, the team feels it and they adapt to it. And over time, a culture forms not from values that are somewhere in the mission and vision statement of the company, but from your actual baseline. Talented people who quietly disengage, stop giving the best, an organization that never gets to discover what it is truly capable of. The third cost, your energy. Leaders who don't do this work, don't stop working, pouring energy into the wrong level, solving the wrong problem, working very hard, become highly skilled at managing a ceiling instead of breaking through it. And underneath that, often invisible, even to themselves, is a deep tiredness, not from the work, but from the constant effort of holding things together, instead of leading from expansion, from a completely different place, from an elevated baseline. It is a cost to who you could become. Because your next level of leadership, your next level of impact, the version of you that your team, your family, your organization, your business needs, that version doesn't emerge from more strategy or working harder, taking more efforts. It emerges from the elevated baseline. And every year that this doesn't happen is a year of potential that simply doesn't get lived. So what are the costs that you're already experiencing by leading, being unaware of what is the current inner baseline that you lead from? What is the cost that you have? What is the cost that your organization have and team has? What is the cost that your business has? This is the one question I would like to invite you to sit with. If you are unaware of what's your identity, what's your state baseline, and what's the subconscious patterns shaping your perception currently run the show, then you are leading from an unconscious place. And it's until you understand how it works and which exactly is your pattern, how the mechanics works, and how you can take the driver's seat and step into next version of yourself, next level of leadership. It will continue to run the show. It will continue to cost you, your team, your organization, your relationships, your well-being, and your missed opportunities and potential. So it's worth to pause and reflect on. Now, lastly, I want to be very honest with you. You will not get to elevate this baseline by affirmation, by mindset work, by setting a new vision only, neither by skill-based leadership developments. Those are very important parts along the journey, but they are insufficient because they do not work on the level where we shift that inner baseline effectively. What helps is a structured, guided process that helps you first to understand your baseline, not in theory, but with real examples in your situation, in your context. Second, elevate it, shape that next level identity and vision. Free yourself from these patterns that hold you in this current identity, elevating your state to operate from a different presence, energy, and wider perspective. And the third, embody it, stabilize to integrate that next level of self-beliefs, next level of state, so that it becomes the new you. It is integrated, not in the mind only, but in the body. And this is exactly the process that I designed with precision based on 15 years in corporate, 10 years in transformational leadership, and 4 years work with my clients. The very first place that we start when I partner with any executive or CEO. And only from there, when we elevate that next level baseline, we look into the strategy and to how to build highly performing team processes, how to elevate developing leaders, and so on, other areas in leadership and business that we amplify with. And guess what? Elevating that inner baseline already is transforming your leadership and your business results. If you recognize yourself in any of those examples, any of those what I'll be sharing here, and want to move from wanting to elevate your baseline to really stepping into that next level and next dimension of leadership, breaking through that ceiling and realizing the vision and the goals with your team, organization, and business, then I want to invite you to something. Understanding and elevating your current baseline, breaking through that ceiling. That's exactly what Elevate Leader is designed to do. The next cohort starts 11th of June, and it's a small, intentionally curated ecosystem because this work deserves the real depth and the real attention. The link is below, and you will see there is an invitation for a personal one-on-one call. And in this conversation, you will discover what is that inner baseline that is holding back realization of what you want to achieve, and see if that program is the right fit right now, or you want to collaborate with me in a more intimate, bespoke partnership. I hope to see you on the other side. I will leave you with this. Your inner baseline is creating a ceiling in your current leadership impact and business performance. See you next time.